many violent, criminal, illegal immigrants are in the state of Illinois? It's a question that some Illinois Republican senators are trying to get at. And they held a news conference yesterday to delve deep into the issues. And this even coming up during last night's vice presidential debates between Senator J.D. Vance and Governor Tim Walz. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thank you for joining us each and every weekday morning. Let's get to this headline here from thecentersquare.com. ICE, 662,000 criminal foreign nationals to be deported. Many living free nationwide. 387,000 criminal non-citizens arrested by ICE between fiscal year 2021 and 2023. So this report goes on to talk about information released by ICE, and they were requested to provide information about the number of non-citizens on its docket for removal who are convicted or charged with a crime. As of July 21st, 2024, there were 662,566 non-citizens with criminal histories on ICE's national docket, which includes those detained by ICE and on the agency's non-detained ticket. Of those, 435,719 are convicted criminals, and 226,847 have pending criminal charges. That's according to the ICE deputy director who released that information. So let's talk now about the Illinois picture, because in Illinois, we have obviously a lot of non-citizens. The southern border communities inundated with the estimated tens of thousands. I think it's 15 million rather, possibly up to 20 million if you include the gotaways, and you don't really know how many that number is. But regardless, southern border communities inundated with these border crossers. Some may be seeking asylum, and then they wait 5 to 7 years to have an asylum hearing. Others may just cross illegally. Regardless, the amount of resources needed to handle that in some of these small border communities, not available. So the governor of Texas decided, hey, there's sanctuary cities out there. Cities that say they're not going to enforce federal immigration law. So he said, if that's the case in these cities and states like Illinois, who have non-citizen health care subsidized by the Illinois taxpayer, we'll just send them there. So Illinois has received more than 45,000, last number I checked, of non-citizens since August of 2022. Other areas, New York being especially hit with a large number, even Denver, Colorado being hit with an especially large number. But regardless, that seems to be just a drop in the bucket of the number of non-citizens who are in this country. When you look at ICE's numbers, again, pretty daunting as to the number of convicted criminals who are in this country illegally. State Senator Chapin Rose joined other Republicans here in Illinois during a virtual news conference yesterday, and he laid out their concerns.
You have 662,566 people who've been arrested, charged, and or convicted. That's an astounding number, according to ICE. Of those, you get about 136,000 that have been actually convicted, and about another 227,000 in the pipeline facing criminal charges. Think about those numbers. That's across the United States. And as we're going to see in a minute, I would actually suggest that those numbers are worse. And they're worse in states like Illinois that prevent our local jails and prosecutors and police from even telling ICE that they have arrested someone who's a non-citizen. So if ICE doesn't know they're in the jail, then they're not showing up in those numbers. So those numbers for Illinois are even higher. But let's drill down a little bit as to where these numbers are coming from and what types of crimes we're talking about. 62,000 convicted of assault, 13,000 homicides, 2,500 kidnapping victims, and more than 15,000 sexual assaults. Think about what I just said there. How many of those are in Illinois? How many of those are in the neighborhoods of families that we represent? We don't know, because all we have right now is raw data. And again, I would suggest to you that the numbers are higher, the true numbers are higher, because Illinois has deliberately tied its own hand behind its back when it comes to combating crime. And we're not even telling ICE when we make arrests of non-citizens. So when you look at pending charges, 1,800 pending homicides, 43,000 pending assault charges. And look, this isn't some Republican, website. This is the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement Office itself in a signed letter to Congress sent last week to Congressman Gonzalez. So we are very concerned. These are many of the things that our caucus has brought up routinely in either voting against or filing our own bills to change the existing statute that ties our cops and our police's hands behind their back and not letting ICE know. But these numbers really matter. They really, really matter. And we need to know, as to Illinois and to our local communities, how many of these raw numbers that ICE has put out there are actually from Illinois.
So again, they want that information. In particular, they want to know how many violent non-citizen illegal immigrants there are in Illinois. But there's also been a grand push by Republicans, who are in the super minority in the state legislature, to get rid of the Trust Act, a measure that was actually signed by former Governor Bruce Rauner and enhanced under Governor J.B. Pritzker with a different law. But ultimately it says that local and state police cannot cooperate with federal immigration authorities in enforcing immigration law if that's the only thing against somebody. Now, the waters may be a bit murky if the individual is found to have been convicted of murder. So I got to delve into the legalities there. But I've even had police officers tell me that they're blatantly not allowed to ask about somebody's immigration status. One officer shared with me about a stop they made, and it was a van full of people who were swerving all over the place, going under the speed limit. And then when they got pulled over, it was a van full of people from the Congo. Barely any of them spoke French, let alone English. There was one interpreter who shared that they were in Illinois, and this is in central Illinois, working at a factory, and they were exhausted, and they're just... So clearly, there's an issue there. And if you are in the law enforcement community and you've had similar things happen to you, please do find my number. Go to bishoponair.com, the contact page, and you'll be able to find my phone number. You can send me a text or give me a call, and I'll do what I can to touch base with you. But I mean, this is clearly something we're hearing more and more about, of the number of people who are in this country, in this state, not just in Chicago, but elsewhere. And how many of them are violent non-citizen criminals? State Senator Dave Severson, a Republican from the Rockford area, sharing some of his thoughts.
There's a reason why they said we don't want to track non-citizens. I mean, they track everything else. They track age, they track sex, they track where you're from. They're so detailed on criminals, and yet this is one that they don't want to track anything, and which I guess that would lead us to the question is, why don't they want to track these numbers? And I think it's because they know the numbers are significantly worse, and it will just document what we've been saying, that we have a serious problem here in Illinois. And best thing we could do is open up the records and let's document that. If they're saying that there's no problem, then documenting it shouldn't be a problem. But we're going to continue to urge the legislature to allow law enforcement to do their job and track individuals who are non-citizens, who are committing serious crimes against our families, against our children, that we should be allowed to track those so we can, as a state, decide what our best action should be.
So the Republicans, again, trying to raise the issue that there are hundreds of thousands of non-citizens in the country with criminal records, some of them violent criminal records, and how many are in Illinois, they want to know. And even if they do find that out, Illinois law needs to change to allow for local and state police to work with ICE to detain and deport these individuals. The issue of deportations came up last night on the vice presidential debate between J.D. Vance, Donald Trump's running mate, and Tim Walz, Kamala Harris's running mate. And it was about the things Donald Trump has said. Once he's president, he says he will begin the largest deportation efforts to go after violent criminal non-citizens. And here's the question from the moderators to J.D. Vance on this issue.
Crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border consistently ranks as one of the top issues for American voters. Senator Vance, your campaign is pledging to carry out the largest mass deportation plan in American history and to use the U.S. military to do so. Could you be more specific about exactly how this will work? For example, would you deport parents who have entered the U.S. illegally and separate them from any of their children who were born on U.S. soil? You have 2 minutes.
So first of all, Margaret, before we talk about deportations, we have to stop the bleeding. We have a historic immigration crisis because Kamala Harris started and said that she wanted to undo all of Donald Trump's border policies. 94 executive orders suspending deportations, decriminalizing illegal aliens, massively increasing the asylum fraud that exists in our system. That has opened the floodgates. And what it's meant is that a lot of fentanyl is coming into our country. I had a mother who struggled with opioid addiction and has gotten clean. I don't want people who are struggling with addiction to be deprived of their second chance because Kamala Harris let in fentanyl into our communities at record levels. So you've got to stop the bleeding. You've got to re-implement Donald Trump's border policies, build the wall, re-implement deportations. And that gets me to your point, Margaret, about what do we actually do? So we've got 25 million illegal aliens who are here in the country. What do we do with them? I think the first thing that we do is we start with the criminal migrants. About 1 million of those people have committed some form of crime in addition to crossing the border illegally. I think you start with deportations on those folks. And then I think you make it harder for illegal aliens to undercut the wages of American workers. A lot of people will go home if they can't work for less than minimum wage in our own country. And by the way, that'll be really good for our workers who just want to earn a fair wage for doing a good day's work. And the final point, Margaret, is you ask about family separation. Right now in this country, Margaret, we have 320,000 children that the Department of Homeland Security has effectively lost. Some of them have been sex trafficked. Some of them hopefully are at homes with their families. Some of them have been used as drug trafficking mules. The real family separation policy in this country is unfortunately Kamala Harris's wide open southern border. And I'd ask my fellow Americans to remember when she came into office, she said she was going to do this. Real leadership would be saying, you know what, I screwed up. We're going to go back to Donald Trump's border policies. I wish that she would do that. It would be good for all of us.
So again, you can watch more of the debate and some of the back and forth thereafter, including when the CBS moderators tried to fact check J.D. Vance, even though they said they weren't going to fact check, and then they cut the mics off to prevent crosstalk and all of that. Fascinating debate last night, by the way. But what about in Illinois? So yes, if Donald Trump gets elected, and he makes good on his promise to go after the violent non-citizen illegal migrants, how would a state like Illinois play into that? That was a question I posed to the Illinois Republican senators as to what to happen here. You're going to hear from State Senator Craig Wilcox, former member of the military, State Senator Jill Tracy, and State Senator Chapin Rose.
Governor, do you care to respond to any of those specific allegations, including...
Not that. Let's do this over here, and bada bing, bada boom, and go.
It's disappointing that we don't even have a single statement necessarily that talks about, from a military and an intelligence structure, all the reports of certain countries in South America emptying jails and encouraging those individuals to head to the United States. That should be priority number one for border control at the least, right? You want to know who's coming into the country. But if deportations are going to occur, you would think that that requires the coordination between the states. Under our current structure right now, you can imagine where Illinois would not comply or coordinate with the feds at any level. So if the neighboring states are complying and people are being deported based on their criminal history, those that are in a similar situation that haven't been caught or pushed through deportation yet, where do you think they're coming? To Illinois. So our point is, if we have an idea of what the numbers look like today, and certainly I want to know what's in our neighboring states, what's a couple states away, a train ride, a bus ride away, because if and when major deportations start to occur, you can expect that the numbers in Illinois will increase as people attempt to avoid that if Illinois truly acts against the federal rule.
And Greg, I would say also, let's face it, the truth is, if Illinoisans know the number of those in this state that are illegal and are convicted felons or have pending charges either here or in another country, don't you think the citizens of Illinois want to back up any plan to get rid of those individuals? We have we have crime that needs to be addressed at all angles, just of those that are legally in our country. So I would say certainly our citizens would support the deportation.
Hey, Greg, not to spend too much time on this question, but I'm going to confine my context to the existing state law and the existing federal immigration rules, not as to any hypothetical about who may or may not, what may or may not happen in the future. But again, under the existing rules, if ICE were wanting to deport an individual and that individual is sitting in the Champaign County jail and ICE was never informed they're in the Champaign County jail, how do you deport that person? You don't, because you never knew they were there. That's the whole point of the ICE detainer, okay? So they can go out there. And by the way, the ICE detainer applies to both legal and illegal immigrants. If someone comes here lawfully and commits a crime and they're not a U.S. citizen, they can still be subject to deportation, again, through all the existing rules that apply. So, but if ICE never knew they were there, which is the law in Illinois, then that person's going to walk right back out the jail door or the Department of Corrections door at the end of their sentence and right back into our local communities. And that's the problem.
So clearly, Republicans continue to work at trying to highlight and elevate this issue. We'll see where it goes. Governor J.B. Pritzker has a unrelated event today, I believe in Aurora. And it'll be interesting to see if he's asked about this issue in response to the debate last night, in response to the Republicans from yesterday here in Illinois. Just one of the myriad issues we're tracking at thecentersquare.com. Again, go get that newsletter each and every weekday morning. Wake up with us for Illinois in Focus daily here with America's Talking Network. Join the live chat, get the podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, search Illinois in Focus. And also, get the segments and the news clips at America's Talking Network.